that you brought me through.
I just want to say thank you.
Thank you for your grace.
Thank you.
Lord, for keeping me safe.
Thanks to you.
That I can share the good news of the Savior. To give someone a reason just to tell you for your love. Lord, I thank you for the blood.
Thanks to you.
For all of the times that you brought me through. Lord, I thank you for your grace. Lord, for keeping me safe. And I can share the good news of a Savior. Give someone a reason just to tell you thanks. Oh, Lord, thank you.
All right. All right. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to today's workbook lesson from A Course in Miracle, workbook lesson 112. And we are in our third review. My name is Oliver Blue, and I am here representing Truly Foundation, your nonprofit organization that is dedicated and devoted to the sharing of advanced spiritualities. And we do that. We're doing that in this project as we go through the 365 workbook lessons from A Course in Miracles for the purpose of renewing and transforming our minds and bringing a discipline to our minds that the goal is to align the mind, have the mind be realigned with that which is true, and that which is true always about us. And so with that being said, we're going to jump right into lesson 1 to 12. And today's lesson is a two-part lesson. We're going to be reviewing workbook lesson 93 and workbook lesson 94. And our goal in these lessons is to review the ideas that were shared when we went through the complete lesson, and then to practice these ideas during today, once in the morning, once in the evening. Spend 5 minutes with each idea, and then during the day, within each hour, we want to remember both ideas by repeating it and reminding ourselves. So the first idea for the day is light and joy and peace. I call these the triplets. Light, joy, and peace abides in us, or abide in me, or abide in you. And to abide means that they remain present in us. Again, light, joy, and peace abides in me. That is a very, very important statement, a very important idea for us to incorporate within our knowing, within our belief system, because it is an idea that needs to replace an idea that we've been conditioned with, or ideas that we've been conditioned with, that are a substitute to the reality of who we are. And if you remember, if we go back and look at lesson 93 in its fullness, it started out this way. It says, you think, that means that we presently think. When we first began to go through these lessons, I know the first time that I went through these lessons, not having this exposure in this way, I had not been a part of any other spiritual path that was so direct, that was so clear and so explicit about my identity. I mean, not put in code. It wasn't put in, just nice statements here and there. But the Course in Miracles is very explicit, very clear, very precise about sharing the truth of who we are. I mean, at the core of the miracle is coming to know ourselves. That they said that the Course says that the miracle is a shift in the way we think. And so this whole process that we're going through to discipline the mind, this whole process of thought reversal, is for us to make a shift in the way that we perceive, a shift in the way that we understand, a shift in the way that we know the truth about who we are and who our Creator is and who our brother is and what the world is. And so it says, so prior to me having this experience of going through these lessons, I thought, man, listen, my mind was way out. And I thought that was just who I was. I mean, I thought I thought my mind was a picture of who I was. And so that created a tremendous amount of fear in me. I'm telling you, man. And I thought all these thoughts I was having were private thoughts. But lo and behold, I got a hold of A Course in Miracles, and it changed everything for me. So the subject here is light and joy and peace is what abides in us, okay? But then look at the first paragraph of this lesson in lesson 93. It says, you think. So this is the thought system that most of us bring to A Course in Miracles. This is the way we think. It says, you think you are the home of evil, darkness, and sin. You see the substitute? You see the counterfeit of light and joy and peace? Well, the ego thought system, its main goal is to have you to believe that you are the home of evil, darkness, and sin, or that evil, darkness, and sin abide in you. But it says, you think if anyone could see the truth about you, that they would be repelled, recoiling from you as if from a poisonous snake. You think that if what is true about you were revealed to you, you would be struck with horror so intense that you would rush to death by your own hands, living on after seeing this being impossible. These are the beliefs so firmly fixed that it is difficult to help us see that they are based on nothing. That you have made, or that we have made mistakes, is quite obvious. That we have sought salvation in strange ways is quite obvious. That we have been deceived is quite obvious. And deceiving and afraid of foolish fantasies. We are afraid of these ideas that we think about ourselves that are not true. Here, the Course called them strange fantasies. Savage dreams. Savage dreams. That's what the Course calls them. And that we have bowed down to idols or idol worship, made of dust. All this is true by what we now believe. And it says, today we question this, not from the point of view of what we think, but from a very different reference point from which such idle thoughts, okay, there's another idea that they call them idle thoughts, are meaningless. These thoughts are not according to God's will. These weird beliefs, so there it is again, weird beliefs, These weird beliefs God does not share with us. This is enough to prove that they are wrong, but we do not perceive that this is so. So, an untrained mind or an undisciplined mind, the Course says, can really accomplish nothing in terms of purpose. Why? Because it is so off track to its reality. And so in our life, we really cannot experience the light and the joy and the peace that we really are. We can't be happy in terms of who we really are with this kind of thinking, with this kind of beliefs. Again, this separate mind, this mind that thinks it's separate, this mind that have gone prodigal, has gone astray, that believe that it has done something wrong. This mind that believe that there's a God that seeks to destroy it or to punish it because of its choice to be separate. So it's this mind that needs that needs to be healed, that needs to be brought back into alignment, because who we are in reality is changeless. Who we are has been unaffected by all of this whole story of separation, because that's what it is. It's a story. It's not true. It's not reality. The Course calls it a tiny mad idea. And so this mind that thinks that it's separate, this is the way it thinks. It thinks that it's the home of evil, darkness, and sin. And so it believes in foolish fantasies, salvage dreams, idol worship, idle thoughts, strange imaginings, weird beliefs, illusions, hallucinations that are all unreal and all meaningless. None of these vain imaginings mean anything. These are just dreams of separation. And the Course here used, very explicit language here, even to say that we hallucinate. We are hallucinating when we have this belief in separation. And so this is the self that we made. These ideas, this separation idea comes from what we have done ourselves. So it is the self that we made versus the will of God, because that's not the will of God, because the will of God is that light and joy and peace abide in us. So we have the contradiction. Which report will you believe? Which report have you believed? And now that doesn't really matter. What really only thing that matters is in this moment, we have made a decision to embrace the truth that is true always. And that is that love or light and joy and peace abide in us, and that we remain as God created us. We are the changeless, unalterable creations of God. And so light and joy, notice now, these are light. The Bible says that God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. And so if God is light and there is no darkness, what God creates is light and has no darkness. God created the one thing. He called that creation, I am. He called that creation, or it has been identified in different spiritual or religious community, identify that one creation as what? The Son of God. Or in one specific religion, Christianity, it's called the body of Christ, or Christ. All of these are synonymous ideas to the fact that this is what God created. It is what God extended. It is what God is. It is what God is one with. It is what's one with God. And so the whole idea here is that God or love can only create like itself. And remember, we distinguishedly said that creation is not something that is made from something else, but creation is an extension of the Creator. It's merely an extension of the Creator. And so what's in the Creator is in the creation. And what is in the creation is in the Creator. And we gave you a couple of real simple analogies as we use the sun and the sun rays or the sunbeams. We use the ocean and the waves in the ocean. These are two simple ideas that are analogies that help us to understand the oneness of God and his creation. An example we use is that the rays of the sun, even though they appear to be something independent of the sun, are separate. But in reality, we know that the rays are just a reflection or an extension of the sun, and that the rays always retrieve back into the sun, just like the waves of the ocean that come ashore. They appear to be independent of the depth of the ocean. But we always know that the waves will retrieve back into the depth of the ocean because they're one with the ocean. Likewise, what God creates is just an extension of himself. And everything that's in the extension is in the one self that God is. So there's only the one self. And so we know that which God has created is likened to himself, which is who we are. The unchanging, unalterable self that we are. It's a shared self. That's who we are. That's who you are. And so somewhere, somehow creeped into the thought of what God created, that there could possibly be a separation. And it's played out in the creation story in the Bible. That's just a story, metaphor. It played out in the story of the prodigal son that Jesus shared with the community, trying to explain and trying to show and demonstrate that separation is impossible. There's nothing outside of the home of God. There's nothing outside of the reality of God. That God is our only reality. That God is the only reality, and there's nothing outside. That's why it's said that, and that's referred to, the illusionary idea of something being outside of God is referred to as darkness. And we know from many, many different spiritual and religious ideas that there is no darkness in that which is supremely the one God. God is light. God is the light and the life of all that there is. And there's nothing exists outside of it. And so there's a mind or an idea that falls into a dream of being outside of God. It's called a separation. And in that separation, in that dream, mankind seems to remake himself, create an image of God that is unloving, sets up a scenario where there is a victim and a victimizer. Humanity is the victim and God's the victimizer. That humanity owes God something. Owes God's an allegiance. Owes God's an apology for running away from home. That's kind of how it's set up. And that in order for man to come back home, there has to be There has to be a sacrifice. There has to be a shedding of blood. It has to be a payment that we owe God. In other words, we have to be willing to take the punishment. And then it's set up that this one perfect man was born, Jesus, and he took the punishment for all of us. That is the kind of how the story goes. But all that is a part of a fantasy, as though God is is like mankind, that is emotional. God is jealous, as the Bible would say. That God is fickle, and that God has an ego. That's how this story is played out. And so we remade God into our own image. And so thus the chase went on for years and years and years. And so even after the death, burial, resurrection, and ascension of Jesus Christ, there's still this consciousness of sin within humanity. It feels like he's still old. Each individual feels that way, senses that something ain't quite right. And thus we continue the lie of separation. And we continue to try to search for salvation. We try to search for purpose outside of the truth of who we are. And thus it takes revelation knowledge. It takes the truth being shared to bring men into a reality that there is no such thing as separation. That we made it all up. That everything is A-okay. Nothing has changed. We remain as God created us. And so here we are at Workbook Lesson 112, where it says, light and joy and peace abide in us. And it is in this idea that we make a decision that this is the truth about us, and that we are not the holy home of sin, evil, sin, and darkness. But in reality, we are the light and joy and peace. And that we are the home of light and joy and peace. And that we welcome these realities, we welcome these attributes into the home that we share with God. Because we are we are a direct part. We are an important part of this reality that we call God or love. That's the truth of what we are a part of. We're not a part of evil, darkness, and sin. That is the mind that has gone astray. That is the mind that is hallucinating. Those are the thoughts that we hold, thinking that and hide within, thinking that and hiding from others coming to know that this is the way we're thinking, to the point that we recoil. We think people will recoil from us if they knew we were thinking this way. But we have to understand that we are not our thoughts. We are not what we think, especially what we think from a split mind, from a separated mind. But we are we are the thought of God. And that's a fact. It's a matter of fact. That's who and what we are. And so this idea, light and joy and peace abide in us, helps reinforce the truth of who we are. So during the day, make sure that you recall this truth. Remind yourself of this truth once an hour as you go through your day. And then we move on to Workbook Lesson 94. And Workbook Lesson 94 says, I am as God created me. Now, this idea, I am, notice I am is what God created. I am as God created me. I remain unchanged. I remain unaltered. You remain unchanged and unaltered. The self that you have made and the identity that you have embraced as this body-mind identification, which is what your parents provided you. Your parents provided you the body-mind. God did not provide you the body-mind. Your parents did. But the body-mind is just a temporary manifestation. It's not real. It's not who you are. It's an experience that you are having. And this experience seemed to be in time and in form, but it's not reality. It's all part of the story of separation. As you notice, while you're here in this body, while you're here on this dimension that appears to be what we call form dimension, which we call earth, or this dimension of time and space, this dimension of materiality, as you notice, as you are here and observing and experiencing, you notice that everything in this picture speaks to you separation. Everything in this picture is separate. Nothing appears to be joined. Nothing, there's oneness doesn't seem to exist. There's just billions and billions of separate things, including bodies. And so all this communicates to us that separation is real, that we indeed was able to break free from the oneness that God is. But even this level of experience is not real. It's a level of fantasy. It's a level of perception. It is eventually it will eventually not exist. Once you wake up to the reality, once the dreamer who dreamed it up wakes up to the reality, this no longer exists. It disappears. It's called the disappearing of the universe. There's a book named that. You ought to read it. It's called The Disappearance of the Universe. Go check it out. I am as God. You remember God and love are synonymous. I am as love created me. Presently, this present tense, it speaks to the present moment. That statement in and of itself is the answer to all your doubt, your fears, your lacks, your worries. When we embrace this truth, when we embrace this reality, that I am, you are, we are as God created us, well, it's the answer to everything. Then you might ask, well, how did God create us? We're glad you asked. It says, I will remain forever as I was, created by the changeless like himself or herself or itself. Because remember, God is not a he, she, or it. God is, and there is nothing else. So however God is, that is how we are. It says, and I'm one with God, and God is one with me. Jesus said, when you see me, you see the Father. Jesus said in many cases, I and you and me, we are one. He used the analogy of the vine and the branches. That what's in the vine's in the branch. So he was talking about metaphysically the oneness that we are, that there's only one thing. And we're part of that one thing, and we remain part of that one thing because that one thing is unalterable. It does not change. It cannot change. It is changeless. So you ask, how did God create us? He created us in reality, the only reality there is, and that is likened to himself. God created us in truth, the truth that is true always. God created us as eternal beings because God is eternal. Meaning what? We have no beginning and no end. We always have been, always will be. That God created us what? Outside of time and space, that we are timeless and formless beings. We are not these bodies, but we are timeless, formless beings. How did God create us? God created us likened to himself under one law, the law of love or the law of God. And that law is what? Unalterable. It can't be changed. How did God create us? We're changeless beings. We remain as God created us. How did God create us? No birth, no death. The term that is used, I think, in the course is that we are what? We're impregnable. That there is no other option. There are no opposites in our reality. It's not God and something else. It's God and nothing else. that we have no beginning, we have no end. The Course says we merely is, we merely are. And so that remains unchanged, that remains untainted. That true reality of who you are has never been touched by any of the foolish fantasies, the salvage dreams, the idol worship, the idle thoughts, the strange imaginings, the weird beliefs, the illusions and hallucinations, the unreality or the meaningless that we have created. None of that have touched who we are. We're like in a dream. We wake up from the dream, that which was in a dream, what poof, you realize what it was nothing more than what an imagining. So it hadn't really touched or impacted who you really are. That's what this verse means. That's what this idea means, that we remain as God created us. So every thought of guilt or sin or condemnation or judgment that you have ever experienced, it means nothing. Every lesson you've been taught to have you to believe that you're something that you're not, it means nothing. Every idea of hell, of hell and death and demons and devils and this war and fighting that is going on, in this spiritual world against God and his enemies, all these ideas are nothing. They've never touched you. These are all fantasies, all stories. These are all vain imaginings, weird beliefs, religious beliefs that are all part of what the ego thought system to get us to what be in a place of what evil, darkness, and sin, to think that we are something that we're not. But I'm here to tell you again today, you remain as God created you. You are the holy home of God. Love and joy and peace and light and happiness abides in you. You are God's one creation. You are God's one offspring. You have inherited what God is. You are the Christ. You are to the praise of God's glory. All of this and so much more identifies your true self. You share the one self that there is. You are the express image. You are the one thought that God is. You and I are a fact. And this is all humanity. This is not some special group of people. This is not just some special religious group, as they would have you to believe, that if you don't believe our way, you're wrong and you're going to hell. No, this is to all humanity. Love is all encompassing. There's nothing outside of it. God's not a respecter of person, of people, or religions, or ideas that are not his. God is the only respecter of himself. When he could find no greater, he swore by himself that truly blessings, you have been blessed, meaning you have equality with God. He guarantees it. When he could swear by no greater, he swore by himself with a promise and an oath. That salvation, salvation is only needed here in time and space because we thought we fell a prey, or we thought we successfully separated from God. And salvation is simply the idea or the reality that God guarantees. God guarantees that all humanity will wake up and come home to the truth. God guarantees it. Even if we go back to lesson 94, let's look at it again. Today we continue with the one idea, which brings what? Complete salvation. The one statement which makes all forms of temptation powerless. And what is the temptation? The temptation is what? For us to believe that we're something that we're not. That's what temptation is always about. If you look at the account of temptation that Jesus went through in the wilderness, it was all about who he was. Was he really the Son of God? And so the temptation was to get him to believe that he was something else, or to sell out his reality for unreality, for bread. He said the one statement which makes all form of temptation powerless, the one thought which renders the ego silent and entirely undone. Because remember, we're in this process of undoing what we learned that was not true. So salvation is not doing something, it is the undoing of the ideas that we embraced as our own that was not true about us. So as we undo each layer of false or truth, we become aware of the purity of who we are, because all that's left is what God created, and it shines brightly because it's all light, it's all joy, and it's all peace. It says, we are as God created us. The sounds of this world are still. The sights of this world disappear, and all the thoughts that this world ever held are wiped away forever by this one idea. Here is salvation accomplished. Here is where the reality, here is where the guarantee, here is where the promise of God becomes experienced by all humanity. It says, here is sanity restored to the human race through this one idea. Because the opposite of I am as God created me is that I am not as God created me, that I successfully was able to change myself and make something else of myself. And that is impossible. Only in dreams can that take place. And so you look at your life, you say, well, look, I'm not like God. I'm not perfect like that. Well, yeah, that means you're dreaming of separation. You're hallucinating, as the Course says. It says true light is strength, and strength is sinlessness. See? True strength is sinlessness. It said, if you remain as God created you, you must be strong, and light must be in you. He who ensures your sinlessness, or promises it, he who ensures that you are without sin, must be the guarantee of strength and light as well. You are as God created you. Darkness cannot obscure or cover up the glory of God's Son. You are the glory of God. You are the light of the world. That's what it meant. That's what Jesus meant. It says, you stand in light. Remember, God is light, and in him there is no darkness. So that means that in you is light, and in you there is no darkness. Any darkness that you have experienced it was experienced through a mind that had gone astray, a mind that had fallen into fantasies and in dreams and in hallucinations. And so this whole process that we're going through is to bring the mind back into alignment to what is true. Be not conformed to this world. Don't be conformed don't be conformed to the thoughts or the ideas of separation. But be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. So it is the mind that is what salvation is for, because you remain as God created you. You've been unaffected by any of this. All of the history of humanity, all of the history of this world have not changed who you are in truth. You've been unaffected by it. And so we stand in light, strong in this sinlessness in which we were created and in which we will remain throughout eternity. So we are as God created us. We are that eternally. I am that, or we are that. We are. Like Jesus said, I am that. I am. Or Moses said, I am that. I am. God told Moses, that's what you say. So that was the truth. And that included Moses. And that included Pharaoh. Because love is what all encompassing. And when we as a species, when we as the 8 billion body, mind beings on this planet wake up to the truth of this reality, we will experience this reality in every way. It's possible. God promised. God guarantees it. Do you believe it? Do you believe that you remain as God created you? That you are the holy home of light and joy and peace and happiness. That's who you are. That's your reality. So this was good. This is Workbook Lesson 112 as we reviewed the previous 2 workbook lessons, 93 and 94. So as you go through your day, remember to spend some time in this AM thinking of the idea. And each hour, remember these 2 ideas: light and joy and peace abide in me. And I remain as God created me. It's been my pleasure to be your temporary guide today. My name is Oliver Blue, and Truly Foundation thanks you for being a part of this. And we thank those that are following along each day, those who are actually practicing the exercises. You will be the beneficiary of your practice. You'll be the beneficiary of doing the exercises. You'll be the beneficiary of being transformed in the renewing of your mind. And so you are the light of the world. We all are the light of the world. And that is the truth. That is true always. So we're going out of here, and I'm going to take you out the same way I brought you in, on with this song that I love so much. I can get it to play.
Lord, there's so
All
many
right.
things that I want
We'll
to
see you
thank
tomorrow.
you for.
Thank you so much.
Lord, I
Bye-bye.
thank you
Thank
for your
you.
grace. I thank you for your
Thank
mercy,
you.
God. I thank you for your love. Thank you for favor, oh God. God, if I had 10,000 tongues, I couldn't say enough thank yous, and I couldn't praise you enough. So in this song, I'll simply tell you I love you. And God, I thank you for everything you've done. Lord, there's so many things that you've done for me. Blessings unconditional, they seem to overtake me. Your hand of mercy proving faithful and true. Jesus, how can I express my thanks to you for your grace and kindness, oh, agent of days. I'll give you thanks, oh Lord, now and always. Oh, I just want to say thank you for your love. Thank you. Thank you for the love. Thanks to you for all of the times that you brought me through. Lord, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your grace. Thank you, Lord, for keeping me safe. Thanks to you that I can share the good news of a Savior, to give some other reason just to tell you thanks. Oh Lord, and thank you, Lord. Lord, it's not enough to give a simple praise to the one blessed me in so many ways. Nothing I could say or do could really show my gratitude to you, Lord. One God, one love, one faith. To you I give you praise. Three blessed Trinity, you mean so much to me. And you showered me with love, even when I turned away. Lord, I could never repay you, so I'll just say,
I just wanna say
thank you for your love. Thank you for the blood.
thanks to you.
For all of the times that you brought me through.
I just wanna say thank you.
Thank you for your grace.
Thank you.
Lord, for keeping me safe.
Thanks to you.
And I can share the good news of the Savior to give someone a reason just to tell you for your love. Lord, I thank you for the blood.
Thanks to you.
For all of the times that you brought me through. Lord, I thank you.